In the darkness of the 41st millennium, mercy is a forgotten art. The words are not written in any book. They are whispered in the corridors of the Scholastica Medicae, carved into the walls of infirmaries with the nails of the dying. They echo through the reeking wards of hive cities, where the air itself festers with rot and radiation. In the Imperium of man, where every breath is taxed and every heartbeat belongs to the Emperor, sickness is not a tragedy. It is a test, a measurement of faith, a glimpse into the soul's decay. The sick are not merely ill, they are suspect. Somewhere deep within the bowels of a hive world, where a billion bodies breathe the same poisoned air, a woman coughs. The sound is wet, hollow, and brief. Around her, no one dares to look. To be seen noticing disease is to invite it upon yourself. To acknowledge the weak is to risk the gaze of the Adeptus Arbites, or worse, the black-robed priests who serve the ecclesiarchy's more merciful duties. There are no hospitals here, only wards of repentance. The sick lie in endless rows, wrapped in blood-stiffened cloth, eyes fixed on flickering icons of the Emperor's golden visage. Each patient is given a small wax seal upon their forehead, pressed there by the Medicae with trembling hands. The seal bears a single word: cleansing. No one explains what it means. In the Imperium, medicine is an act of faith, not science. Ancient knowledge, once held by physicians, surgeons, and healers, has decayed into ritual. The Medici are half doctor, half priest, their instruments sanctified with litanies instead of sterilized with heat. They wield relics of ages past, scalpels etched with holy sigils, syringes filled with alchemical oils whose ingredients are long forgotten. When a patient screams under their care, they recite psalms instead of apologies. It is said that the Emperor heals all wounds, but not all bodies deserve healing. Those who sicken in service to the Imperium are divided, though none are told how. The noble, the useful, and the pious may find themselves upon a clean cot, beneath the dim glow of lumen globes tended by Medici chanting praise through their rebreathers. But for the common, the mutant-born, or the merely unlucky, sickness is something else entirely. It is a stain of the warp, a whisper of corruption. On some worlds, plague is fought with quarantine and prayer, on others, with fire. In the death world of Akrin Fall, a fever spread through a mining colony that dug too deep into veins of ancient rock. The miners' skin peeled like wax, and their eyes wept black ichor. The overseers summoned the local preacher, who declared the sickness a test of devotion. Those who prayed survived, he said. Those who did not became fuel for the Emperor's light. Within a week, every home was aflame. Faith in the Imperium is the only cure. Science is heresy. Hope is rationed. Even the act of treating illness without ecclesiastical sanction can bring death. Apothecaries of the Adeptus Astartes may wield genetic miracles, their tools refined by the forgotten sciences of the Great Crusade, but even they use them sparingly, for warriors, not citizens, for heroes, not the broken. To fall ill as a mortal man is to step outside the Emperor's grace. There are exceptions, though few would envy them. On the shrine world of Dreffen's Rest, the sick are gathered in great processions that wind for miles through the streets. They crawl, bleeding and chanting, toward a massive bronze reliquary said to contain the Emperor's tear. The journey takes weeks. Many die before they reach it. Those who survive kiss the reliquary's base and feel nothing but cold metal. Yet they smile, believing themselves cured. Faith, after all, is not measured in recovery as sign, but in endurance. In some corners of the Imperium, sickness is harvested. The magos biologists of the Adeptus Mechanicus collect disease like sacred scripture. Within the red vaults of Mars and its forges, they study plagues not to cure them, but to understand the divine mechanisms of decay. To them, a virus is a hymn in binary, A bacterium is a machine of flesh. The sick who fall into their hands are never seen again, their bodies dissected and catalogued as offerings to the Omnissiah. Some whisper that the Mechanicus has learned to create disease, not to spread it, but to weaponize the lesson it brings. That flesh is weak, and purity lies only in steel. But even among these horrors, there are places darker still. In the hive of Scintilla Primus, beneath the spires of gold and glass, lies the ward of St. Kephra. It is a vast labyrinth of tunnels lined with cots, where the forgotten are brought to rot in silence. The Medici here wear masks of bone and brass, their faces never seen. When they approach a patient, they carry censers filled with choking incense, said to drive out demons, though some claim it hides the stench of death. Each night, the sick are counted. Those who fail to rise are taken to the lower levels, where their bodies are burned, or so the upper hives believe. In truth, the lower levels are filled with whispering figures, shadows that once were human. The Emperor's light does not reach here, and something else watches. There are rumors, always rumors, of sickness that speaks. In the black archives of the Inquisition, reports describe cases of infection that think. A plague that infects dreams, spreading not by touch but by prayer. An epidemic that heals its victims, only to leave them faithful to something else. Something that answers their pleas with warmth that is not holy. The Inquisition burns those worlds. Entire sectors vanish from records, their coordinates erased, their stars forgotten. The sick, it seems, are not only a burden, they are a doorway. To the ecclesiarchy, sickness is sin. To the Mechanicus, it is data. To the Inquisition, it is corruption. And to the people, the billions who toil and cough and die unseen, it is simply life. In the dark corners of the underhives, there are those who whisper forbidden names. They speak of healers who do not wear the aquila, of surgeons who ask for no prayer, who heal not with relics, but with forbidden machines. They call themselves the Quiet Hand. No one knows where they come from. Some say they are deserters from the Mechanicus. Others claim they are descendants of the fabled Doctors of Terror, men of science from a brighter age. Those who find them pay in secrets, not coin. And those who are healed by them are never quite the same, because in a galaxy where faith sustains life and pain ensures purity, to be healed without prayer is an act of rebellion. One such rebellion is unfolding now. A transport ship, the Sanctus Morn, drifts through the void between stars. Its holds are filled with the sick, gathered from across a dozen worlds. Officially, they are being taken to a pilgrimage site for purification. But in truth, their destination is a secret world, one erased from Imperial charts centuries ago. No prayers are whispered aboard this vessel, no sermons. Only the soft hum of machines long banned by the Adeptus Mechanicus. At its heart, in a sanctum lit by dying lumens, stands a figure in robes of faded crimson. His hands move with surgical precision, guided not by faith, but by knowledge older than the Imperium itself. The people call him Father Medan. The Inquisition calls him Heretic Primus. He claims he can cure any disease, even the curse of the warp. The ship drifts deeper into the void, away from the Emperor's light. Around it, the stars flicker as if something unseen is watching. The patients whisper prayers, not to the Emperor, but to the man who promises them life. In the dark, the Medan raises his eyes to the void beyond the viewport. His lips move, not in prayer but in awe. Something answers. The Sanctus Morn shudders. The lights dim. Somewhere below, a patient begins to scream, not in pain, but in ecstasy. The disease within her shifts, reshapes, becomes something radiant and wrong. In the 41st millennium, sickness is not an end. It is a beginning. And as the ship disappears into the black between stars, a single transmission flickers through the void, a voice distorted, filled with both terror and wonder. He has found it, the cure, and it speaks. Then silence. Only the echo of the dying machines remains, whispering through the endless dark. The transmission from the Sanctus Morn spread through the data void like a fever. Within the Administratum archives, it appeared only for 7 seconds before being purged by an automated script. But that was long enough. Someone heard it. Someone always does. On the shrine world of Varn 9, Inquisitor Caden Marn listened to the recording in a candlelit chamber beneath the cathedral. He said nothing as the static faded. The voice still trembled in the air, its final words like infection. He has found it, the cure, and it speaks. His acolytes crossed themselves in fear. Marn only whispered, "Find the source." The order spread like wildfire through bureaucratic veins. Vox relays hummed, astropaths screamed, and within days, a dozen warships were charting paths into the void. None knew exactly what they sought, a ship, a heresy, or a miracle. On board the Vigil of Purity, Captain Helena Soren watched the stars bleed past. Her face bore the stillness of someone long accustomed to silence. She had seen 1,000 dead worlds, their ruins still echoing with hymns. But something about this mission chilled her. A medical vessel vanishing beyond the Emperor's light, it reeked of sin. Yet in her heart, she wondered if it was hope instead. Her first officer, Varric, spoke the thought neither dared admit. "If the man found a cure, Captain, does that make him a heretic or a saint?" Helena looked at him for a long time. "In the Imperium," she said, "there is no difference. Far below, in the lower decks where the air tasted of oil and incense, the ship's chaplain prepared the soldiers for holy cleansing. He recited the Litany of Fire, a prayer that burned doubt from the soul. Each word was a brand against conscience. Mercy, he intoned, is the rot from which heresy grows." The soldiers repeated after him, but their eyes were tired. Many had seen plague before. Some had buried kin in its name. One guardsman, Jorek Hall, kept silent during the chant. He had once watched his sister die coughing blood in a hive infirmary while priests read scripture over her instead of offering medicine. To him, the Emperor was not mercy. He was endurance, an endless wall to lean against when nothing else stood. As the Vigil of Purity neared the coordinates, the void thickened, stars dimmed to embers, swallowed by a drifting mist that wasn't mist at all. It shimmered, faint, alive, whispering. The ship's sensors screamed incoherent hymns. The astropath died before finishing his warning. Then they saw it, the Sanctus Morn, adrift and wounded. Its hull was cracked open like bone, leaking pale light. No distress beacons, no life signs, only the low hum of something vast and thinking. Captain Soren ordered the boarding party to prepare. Their dropships descended in silence, gliding through the haze. Below, the derelict waited, its hull covered in symbols that pulsed faintly, not carved by human hands. Inside, the air was warm, wet. The corridors throbbed with a faint heartbeat. The soldiers advanced through corridors lined with cocooned figures. Patients fused to the walls, their faces peaceful, their chests rising and falling as though asleep. "Holy Throne," whispered Varric. "They're alive." One of the medici bent closer. The patient's veins glowed faintly beneath their skin, pulsing in unison like a shared rhythm, like prayer. Then the vox crackled. "Soren," came the Inquisitor's voice, harsh and cold. "Do not touch them, burn it all." But Helena hesitated. Her light fell upon a small child, no older than 7, wrapped in translucent film. The child's lips moved soundlessly, whispering something she couldn't hear. Against her orders, She pressed closer. The whisper resolved into words. Not a plea, a promise. He can make us whole. The lights flickered. The walls shuddered. Somewhere deeper in the ship, something woke. The soldiers opened fire on reflex, laser guns flaring, smoke choking the corridor, but their bullets hit nothing. The echoes came from everywhere, like breath on the back of the neck. Then came the voice, calm, patient, and impossibly near. "You came seeking death," it said. "You will find life." The Vox units burst into static. One soldier screamed as his armor fused to his flesh. The Medicae dropped his torch, fire blooming like a prayer denied. In the chaos, Helena saw a figure step from the glow, tall, gaunt, his robes dripping with luminous ichor. Father Medan. His face was neither divine nor monstrous. It was human, terribly sorrowfully human. "You call it disease," he said softly, "but it is revelation. The Emperor gave us flesh, and in it lies his truest design, evolution." Helena raised her weapon. "You speak heresy." "I speak truth." His eyes glowed faintly, and she realized too late that the walls themselves were breathing. "You burn what you cannot heal. You worship death and call it faith." A sound rolled through the ship like thunder, not from machinery, but from the people embedded in the walls. They were chanting now, a low, resonant harmony that made the air vibrate. Helena felt her vision blur. For a heartbeat, she saw the faces of her fallen soldiers, smiling, unscarred, alive. She fired. The shot struck Medan square in the chest. He staggered, then looked down, not in pain, but wonder. "So fragile," he murmured, "so afraid of your own becoming." The chamber erupted in fire. Helena's squad fled, dragging her through collapsing corridors as the Sanctis Morn began to tear itself apart. The sick were awakening, breaking free from their cocoons, not screaming, not raging, just rising, eyes glowing like miniature suns. They reached their shuttle just as the ship convulsed, vomiting waves of burning light into the void. As they ascended, Helena saw the impossible, the wreckage reassembling, healing itself. The Sanctis Morn was alive. When they returned to the Vigil of Purity, the Inquisitor was waiting. Marn stood at the viewport, his expression unreadable. "Did you see it?" he asked quietly. Helena nodded. "He's still there, and whatever he found, it's spreading." Marn's hands tightened behind his back. "Then it will burn. This contagion cannot reach the Imperium." "Contagion?" Varric asked. "It healed them." Marn turned. "The warp heals too, Lieutenant. Shall we worship it next?" Helena met his gaze. "What if it wasn't the warp?" Silence fell. The Inquisitor stared at her, long and cold, before speaking. "Captain Soren, by the authority of the Ordo Hereticus, you are relieved of command." That night, the Vigil of Purity prepared its bombardment. Warheads primed, prayers recited. The ship's choir sang until their throats bled. As the order came, the heavens above the derelict flared. But when the light cleared, nothing remained. No debris, no trace. Only the faint hum of something vast moving beneath reality's skin. 3 days later, across the sector, reports began to surface. Minor infections, impossible remissions, people rising from death with no mark of corruption. Priests called it a miracle. The Inquisition called it contamination. The ecclesiarchy divided. Some bishops claimed it was the Emperor's new blessing, a sign of his living will. Others condemned it as the serpent's final deception. Riots burned in cathedral courtyards as pilgrims tore relics apart searching for divine proof. On Varn 9, Inquisitor Marn sat alone, replaying the transmission. Again and again. The voice haunted him. Not Medan's, but something behind it. Something vast. Something that whispered through the static in words older than mankind. He had heard it once before, in a ruin buried beneath Terra's crust, where saints had gone mad and angels wept oil. He remembered the glyph carved into the stone, a circle within a wound. He remembered the words scrawled beside it. He who heals, uncreates. Marn's eyes flicked to the data slate. Reports showed entire cities quarantined, whole populations healed overnight, untouched by plague or mutation, and all of them whispered the same prayer. He can make us whole. The Inquisitor exhaled slowly. It's too late, he murmured. In orbit above a frontier world, a detachment of the Astra Militarum received new orders. Sergeant Jorek Hal, the same soldier who had once doubted his faith, read the sealed command in silence. Proceed to surface, purge all who claim healing, burn every shrine bearing the mark of Medan. He looked at his men, tired, gaunt, but alive. He thought of his sister, of the endless prayers that had never answered. He thought of the faces on the Sanctis Morn, peaceful in their sickness, unafraid. When the time came, Jorek did not open fire. His unit vanished into the forests instead. Months later, an inquisitorial patrol found the settlement they built, hundreds of them, untouched by disease, living, singing. Above their chapel hung no aquila, only a circle carved into stone, and beneath it the words, "He made us whole." When news reached the High Lords of Terra, silence ruled the Chamber of Apostles. Some demanded exterminatus, others called it blasphemy to destroy what might be divine. The Emperor's own will, they said, might have turned anew. But in the vaults of the Inquisition, Inquisitor Marn stared at a final report. Coordinates, transmissions, and a single fragment of Medan's recovered voice. The cure, the heretic whispered, was never mine. It was his, the one who sleeps beneath the throne. Marn froze. The candles flickered. For the first time in decades, fear crossed his face. He rose slowly, muttering a prayer not of faith, but of dread. Because if what Medan claimed was true, then the sickness of mankind had never been a curse. It had been a cage, and something, or someone, was beginning to wake. The word wholeness spread faster than plague. It carried no banners, no armies, only whispers. From hive to shrine, from forge to farm, people spoke it in secret. A name that was not the Emperor's, but felt divine. He made us whole, and in that whisper, the Imperium trembled. On Varn 9, the statues of saints wept black tears. Pilgrims gathered to drink them, believing the liquid a sign of healing. The ecclesiarchy denounced it as sorcery, but their sermons went unheard. For the first time in millennia, the people no longer begged for the Emperor's mercy. They sought his replacement. Inquisitor Marn watched entire sectors slip from control. His reports grew frantic, filled with contradictions. He ordered purges, quarantines, orbital strikes. Yet for every world burned, 2 more turned. When he slept, he dreamed of the circle within the wound, and when he woke, his hands shook with something he would never name: doubt. Meanwhile, the Astra Militarum fractured. Commanders argued over faith and heresy, as entire regiments refused to fire upon civilians who glowed with strange health. Soldiers who once prayed for deliverance now prayed for understanding. They began marking their armor with small, perfect circles, not in defiance but in hope. Sergeant Jorek Hal's name became legend. His settlement, hidden in the forests of Lyrak's Reach, grew into a sanctuary for the sick. Healed refugees arrived in silence, guided by dreams of light. They built no temples, they sang no hymns, yet every night the air shimmered faintly, as though the stars themselves bent closer to listen. Among them walked a figure in red robes, unaged, unbent. Father Medan. He no longer preached, he only watched, eyes hollow with sorrow and wonder. The cure had spread beyond his control. He had given the galaxy what it begged for, and perhaps what it could never survive. Far above, in the void, the High Lords of Terror debated in secret. Assassins stood in the shadows as cardinals screamed over heresy. The Adeptus Mechanicus demanded samples of the phenomenon, calling it divine nanogenesis. The ecclesiarchy threatened exterminators. None dared ask the question that burned at the center of every mind. What if the Emperor himself had willed it? On Terra, deep within the Golden Palace, the Astronomicon faltered. For a heartbeat across the Imperium, the Emperor's light flickered. Ships vanished into the warp. Worlds went blind. And on those darkened worlds, where the Emperor's beacon no longer reached, people did not despair. They felt something else, soft, warm. A presence vast and patient, like a parent awakening from a long sleep. And it spoke without words. You are no longer broken. On Varn 9, Inquisitor Marn fell to his knees as the vision struck him. He saw a figure of light and rot, crowned in veins of gold, eyes like twin dying suns. The voice whispered, "The Emperor was never sick. Humanity was." When Marn woke, his throne room was in ruins. His retinue lay dead, faces serene, their wounds closed by pale light. He stumbled toward the altar, blood dripping from his nose, whispering prayers to a god who might not be listening. In the outer rim, entire hive cities began to change. The sick no longer died. The old grew young. The crippled walked. But not all transformations were blessings. Some heard the voice too clearly and became something else, beings of light and flesh intertwined, neither demon nor divine. They called themselves the Healed. They did not wage war. They absorbed it. When the Imperial Guard fired upon them, the bullets dissolved mid-air. When tanks rolled forward, their engines stilled as vines of luminous tissue crawled across their hulls. Even the Titans hesitated, their machine spirits whispering reverence instead of rage. The Inquisition branded them abominations. The ecclesiarchy declared a new crusade, the Purity Wars. Yet the front lines blurred. Half the soldiers defected, half the priests fell silent. For the first time in living memory, faith no longer united mankind. It divided it. Inquisitor Marn, desperate, sought the only one who might understand. He found Captain Helena Soren imprisoned in a convent cell, her eyes hollow, her soul scorched by what she had seen aboard the Sanctus Morn. "They think he's a prophet," Marn said, "this Medan. But if he's wrong, if this power is not divine, then the galaxy will burn." Helena looked up slowly. "And if he's right?" Marn hesitated. "Then everything we've ever done, every prayer, every purge, was a sin." Outside, thunder rolled, orbital fire tearing through atmosphere. The Purity Wars had begun in earnest. Entire continents burned in the name of salvation. On Dreffin's Rest, pilgrims once again crawled toward the reliquary. But this time, when they touched the bronze surface, it melted. The metal wept, revealing a core of living flesh. The relic pulsed, and light swept across the planet. Every wound healed, every disease vanished. The priests screamed, torn between awe and terror. Word reached Terra, a miracle. The High Lords ordered silence. But silence could not stop what had already begun. The Astronomicon flickered again, longer this time. Navigators reported voices in the warp, singing hymns in languages older than time. The warp storms calmed, as if something vast within it was being soothed. And then, the Emperor's light went dark for one full minute. Across the galaxy, psychers convulsed. Astropaths bled from their eyes, and every healed soul, every man, woman, and child touched by Medan's gift, looked to the sky and whispered in perfect unison, "He is waking." In that moment, the Imperium split. Half believed the Emperor had returned in a new form, one of flesh, not flame. The other half believed this was the ultimate deception of chaos. Armies turned upon each other, orbital fleets shattered. Planets declared independence, renouncing both terror and the faith that had ruled them for 10,000 years. Helena and Marn escaped into the void, pursued by both loyalists and heretics. Their ship drifted toward the coordinates of the lost world from Medan's records, a place erased from Imperial charts. There, in the dead silence of the void, they found it. A world without atmosphere, yet covered in structures that pulsed faintly beneath the dust. Monuments of bone and brass, each shaped like a human heart. At the planet's core lay a temple, ancient beyond reckoning, carved from a single mass of translucent flesh. Marn and Helena descended through tunnels that breathed softly as they walked. The walls bore inscriptions in High Gothic, older than the Imperium itself. The Emperor was made, not born. They found the sarcophagus deep below, vast, golden, and open. Inside was no corpse, only a shadow burned into the stone. A voice filled the air, gentle, sorrowful, infinite. He was our prototype, the first to bear the sickness, the first to survive. Helena fell to her knees. "What are you?" she whispered. "I am the origin," the voice said, "the human design before the fall. Your emperor found me, imprisoned me, and used my flesh to ascend. But his throne is my tomb, and his light my fever. I am waking, and with me all that was meant to be whole." Marn screamed as the revelation tore through him. Visions flooded his mind. The emperor not as a god, but as a thief. The golden throne not a relic, but a containment device. The Astronomicon not a beacon, but a cage. Helena reached for him, but light erupted from the walls, wrapping around her hand. The flesh beneath her armor shimmered, becoming translucent. She saw veins of gold spreading up her arm, merging with something vast and alive. "Stop," she whispered. "Please." The voice answered, "You cannot stop what was never disease. Humanity was meant to heal itself, to become one body, one mind. Your emperor feared that wholeness. He cut it away, named it corruption. But the body remembers. The cure was always within you." Helena screamed as the transformation overtook her. Memories not her own flooded in, the birth of the Imperium, the burning of knowledge, the sealing of truth beneath 1,000 lies. She saw the Emperor not as a god of light, but as a man in agony, devoured by the very power he had stolen. When she awoke, the temple was silent. Marn lay lifeless beside her, his body half merged into the wall. The sarcophagus glowed faintly, and within it, something moved. She rose, trembling, her reflection gleaming in the golden fluid covering the floor. Her eyes no longer human, mirrors of molten gold. A voice whispered within her mind. Not the Emperor's, not Maiden's. Something deeper, older. "You are healed." Helena looked to the stars above the cracked ceiling. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Astronomicon flared to life, but it no longer radiated the Emperor's light. Its beam was softer, pulsing like a heartbeat, and every healed soul in the galaxy felt it rising to their feet, eyes glowing faintly. On Terra, the golden throne cracked. The attendants screamed as sacred machines failed. The Emperor's form, unmoving for millennia, stirred, not in resurrection, but in decay. His flesh turned black with radiant veins. His lips parted, and from them escaped a sound, not divine, not human. A sigh, a release. And in that instant the galaxy understood. The sickness had never been of the body, nor of the soul. It was of separation. The Emperor had cured humanity by dividing it. Now the cure was undone. Helena's voice echoed across the void, carried by every healed mind. "He is not dying," she whispered. "He is remembering." And as the stars pulsed in rhythm to an unseen heart, the Imperium's banners burned one by one. Faith fractured, flesh mended, and the galaxy began to breathe again, not as billions of souls, but as one. War came not as thunder, but as a whisper. It began with the silence between heartbeats, the breath before a prayer. Across 1,000 worlds, armies hesitated, unsure whether to kneel or to fire. The Astronomican's new light pulsed faintly across the void, no longer constant, but alive. As though the stars themselves were learning to breathe again. On Terra, the High Lords met for the last time. Their council chamber, once lit by golden lumens, now flickered with uncertain light. Each voice was raw with fear disguised as piety. "The throne fails," one cried. "The Emperor stirs." Another hissed, "No, he changes." Outside the chamber, thunder rolled through the palace walls, the sound of something vast awakening. Beneath the golden throne, the custodes stood unmoving, their armor cracked with veins of living gold. Their eyes glowed faintly as they watched the corpse of their god tremble. Some fell to their knees, others raised their blades, unsure whether to protect him or destroy what he had become. Across the galaxy, the ecclesiarchy fractured into factions. The Orthodox held fast, declaring the new light a heresy of the warp. The renewed preached that the Emperor had shed his mortal pain to become one with his creation. Entire cathedrals turned to battlefields, psalms drowned by gunfire. On Varn 9, Inquisitor Marn's death spread as rumor. They said he had merged with the machine gods beneath his fortress, his body of flesh replaced by circuits that bled light. His final message, broadcast once before vanishing into static, spoke 9 words that shattered faith across a sector. The Emperor is no longer watching, only remembering. Helena Soren drifted through the void aboard a dying ship. Her veins glowed softly beneath her skin. Every beat of her heart echoed with something vast and sorrowful. Around her, her crew had begun to change, their wounds sealing, their eyes reflecting the same golden hue. Some wept in gratitude, others in terror. At night, she dreamed of the Emperor's face dissolving into 1,000 others, every soul he had ever touched, staring back through his fading light. The dreams left her trembling, half in worship, half in grief. She no longer knew what he was, god, parasite, or savior. The Mechanicus turned upon itself. The Forge world of Graia broadcast a final sermon from its Archmagos before being consumed by plasma fire. "The machine spirit has evolved," he said. "We are no longer its masters." Then the world's core detonated, scattering fragments of living metal into orbit. Those fragments grew, pulsing, breathing, forming shapes that resembled human hearts, wrapped in steel. The healed spread across space like light through water. They did not conquer, they converted without words. Planets surrendered in silence, their people kneeling not to banners, but to understanding. The war they brought was not one of weapons, but of choice, to remain broken or to become whole, or to become the Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's angels, divided. Some tore the symbols from their armor, believing the Emperor had transcended their purpose. Others vowed to purge the galaxy of this false healing. Brother fought brother, their bolters roaring across the ruins of shrines once built for the same god. Among them, on the dying world of Reth Prime, a single space marine stood upon a shattered altar. His armor was covered in blood, his banner in ash. He stared at the sky, where the light pulsed like a living heart. "Father," he whispered, "what do you want of us now?" The only answer was silence, and the faint echo of a heartbeat that matched his own. The Imperial Navy unleashed fire upon the healed worlds. Orbital bombardments scorched continents, cities turned to glass. Yet each planet, once destroyed, began to regrow. Structures rebuilt themselves, oceans reformed, and the dead rose, not as monsters, but as luminous reflections of what they had been. No matter how many died, the worlds refused to stay dead. On the world of Lyrak's Reach, where the first healed settlement had been born, Jorek Hal stood amidst the ruins of his village. Around him, fire and light intermingled, the cleansing bombardment of the Imperium meeting the quiet radiance of the healed. He held his weapon but did not fire. The sky burned, yet the air felt calm. "We never wanted war," he murmured, "only to stop dying." Helena's ship descended upon Lyrac's reach. She found Jorek kneeling among the ashes. When he looked up at her, their eyes mirrored the same golden reflection. "It's spreading too fast," he said. "The body's remembering itself." She nodded. "And the head will not survive the body's awakening." Above them, the warp itself began to shift. The storms that had raged for millennia quieted, their screams replaced by whispers of harmony. The demons wailed, not in triumph, but in fear. Something older than the chaos gods was stirring, reclaiming what had been lost before the birth of corruption. On Terra, the golden throne cracked completely. The custodies fell back as machines screamed and melted. The Emperor's body, long petrified, began to soften. From his chest grew roots of gold and light, spreading through the throne room, devouring marble, steel, and sanctity. The High Lords fled, but none escaped the palace's gates. The doors closed as if guided by will. The last Vox transmission from Terra carried a voice not of command, but of awe. "He is not rising to rule. He is rising to forgive." Across the stars, psychers convulsed as the Astronomicon pulsed one final time, brighter than any sun. For one heartbeat, every living being in the Imperium shared the same vision. The galaxy as a vast, wounded body, and the Emperor as its scar, healing, unraveling, bleeding light into darkness. Helena fell to her knees as the vision tore through her mind. "He's letting go," she whispered. Jorek stared at the sky, watching the light expand like a wave. "Of what?" he asked. "Of us," she said. "Of the lie that we needed saving." Then came the sound, deep and resonant, as though the universe itself drew breath. Stars dimmed, moons cracked. The warp screamed as something immense pressed against its fabric. The healed turned their faces upward, their eyes reflecting eternity. In the void, forgotten fleets halted mid-battle, soldiers dropping their weapons as every heartbeat in the galaxy aligned. The air itself trembled. The Emperor's final light began to fade, not extinguished, absorbed, diffused into the veins of all things. On Terra, the throne collapsed inward, devouring itself, leaving only a sphere of living light where his body had once been. Helena reached for Jorek's hand as the wave approached. "Whatever happens," she said, "remember what we were, even if he does not." The air shimmered. The sky turned gold. The last of the old Imperium burned like parchment before dawn. And then, silence. The kind of silence that comes before history changes forever. It began as light, not the light of stars, nor the glow of sanctified flame, but a radiance that seemed to remember the first dawn of creation, warm, endless, unyielding. It spread across the void, washing through the remains of the Imperium like breath through dust. Ships, cities, worlds, all were caught in its embrace. For one heartbeat there was peace. And then the screaming began. The light did not heal gently. It tore, it remade, it judged. Those who had lived by lies of devotion were stripped of their faith until their minds stood naked before the truth. The ecclesiarchs burned first, their words unmade, their flesh consumed by the very prayers they had twisted for power. Across 1,000 shrines, statues wept molten gold. On Lyrac's reach, Helena Soren staggered through the ruins as the sky fractured into rivers of light. Her veins pulsed like molten veins of the throne itself. Around her the healed lay in silent agony, their bodies glowing brighter than suns. "He's choosing," whispered Jorek beside her, voice trembling. "He's separating what's real from what we made him to be." The ground split open. Beneath the surface, the bones of cities long buried began to rise, cathedrals swallowed by time clawing their way toward the surface. Every bell rang in perfect unison. The air was alive with voices, countless souls calling out as one. Helena covered her ears, but still the sound came from inside her mind. We are his memory. We are his pain. In orbit, the Imperial Navy's remaining ships turned their guns toward the planet. Commanders screamed orders through tears of confusion. Some prayed, some cursed. One fleet captain whispered, "If this is salvation, may the Emperor forgive me for refusing it." And he fired. Orbital fire rained from the heavens, scarlet and gold. The ground exploded into oceans of plasma. Helena watched the sky burn, yet even in destruction, the light did not die. It grew stronger, feeding on the sacrifice. "He's not punishing us," she said softly. "He's remembering what it felt like to lose." Jorek fell to his knees, clutching his head. He's too big, too much. He's burning through every thought, every soul. Helena reached for him, but her fingers dissolved into golden dust before touching his face. The light consumed her hand, spreading upward like fire made of mercy. "Then we have to endure it," she whispered. "We are the last shape of his sorrow." On Terra, the sphere that had once been the Golden Throne pulsed violently. The custodies encircled it, their armor melted into their flesh. Each one recited the same vow, over and over, though their voices were little more than echoes. "The Emperor protects." Their words melted into light, their bodies vanished. Only the vow remained, whispering through the chamber like wind through a tomb. The fabric of the warp convulsed, demons fell silent. Their laughter, their hunger, gone. They howled not in rage, but in terror. For the first time in eternity, they were being forgotten. The gods of chaos bled from memory, their forms unraveling like smoke. The Emperor was erasing them by remembering himself. Helena collapsed, half her body now radiant, half human. Through her eyes, she saw every moment of humanity's history play at once, its triumphs, its heresies, its endless wars. She saw mothers clutching children as bombs fell, soldiers praying to a god who had never answered, priests drowning in their own faith. She saw him, not as a god but as a man chained by belief, burning for millennia to hold the galaxy together. And she wept. Jorek crawled toward her, his own body flickering between flesh and energy. "Helena, what if this isn't his will? What if this is his death?" She smiled faintly through the agony. "Then let it be a beautiful one." The light surged again. Every heart in the galaxy skipped a beat. Time faltered. In that pause, something vast spoke, not in words but in memory. Every soul felt it. The Emperor's final thought, not command, not promise, but apology. "I was never meant to be worshipped." Across the stars, armies stopped fighting. Orcs fell silent mid-war cry. Eldar seers dropped their runes in awe. Even the Tyranid fleets, alien and merciless, drifted aimlessly, as if stunned by a silence they could not comprehend. The universe held its breath. On Terra, the palace crumbled inward. From its ruins, a single beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the void, brighter than any sun. It spread outward in waves, washing through warp and matter alike. Helena and Jorek stood in its path, holding each other as their forms dissolved completely. The light reached the edge of the galaxy and beyond. Warp storms evaporated. The Eye of Terror shuddered, then collapsed in on itself, vanishing like smoke swallowed by dawn. The Chaos Gods screamed one last time, not in defiance, but in fear of oblivion. Then, darkness, not destruction, but rest. The kind of darkness that follows a wound's healing. The galaxy quieted. Time resumed. On Lyrak's reach, Ash fell like snow. The light had gone. The air was still. The ruins were silent except for the soft hum of wind moving through the bones of what once was. Where Helena and Jorek had stood, only two shadows remained burned into the ground, one holding the other. Above, the stars flickered uncertainly, as if relearning how to shine. The Astronomicon was gone. Navigators stared into the void and found no guiding flame. Yet, for the first time, the warp was still. Peaceful. Dead. It was neither god nor man, neither emperor nor ghost. It looked upon the ruin of humanity's empire and whispered a single word. Not command, but question. Now, its voice echoed across the dead halls. There was no answer, only the whisper of wind moving through the shattered banners of the Imperium. A child's cry broke the silence. Somewhere beyond the ruins, life stirred, fragile, human, unafraid. The figure turned toward the sound. The faintest trace of sorrow crossed its face, as if remembering the cost of creation. And then, quietly, it began to walk. Each step left no mark. Each breath stirred the dust of empires. The golden veins in its body dimmed slowly, fading with every heartbeat. The galaxy waited, not in worship, not in fear, but in silence, the kind that follows an ending so vast that even the stars hesitate to shine. Somewhere, deep in the void, a single spark flickered within the remnants of the Astronomicon. It was faint, almost invisible, but it pulsed with rhythm, a heartbeat. Then another. The light was returning. Not from above, but from within, from every world, every ruin, every surviving soul. Humanity itself had become the vessel of its god, the Emperor's dream, once bound to a throne, now diffused into the blood of his people. The figure stopped at the edge of a ruined courtyard. Beneath its feet, the stones were engraved with ancient words, "The Emperor protects." It knelt, touched the inscription gently, and smiled. "Not anymore," it whispered. "They do." The wind rose, carrying ash into the sky. The light faded completely, and in that vast silence, the galaxy turned once more, wounded, reborn, and waiting. Something eternal had shifted, but the reckoning was not yet done. The galaxy was quiet. Not the silence of death, but the silence that comes after a great storm, when the wind has exhausted itself and the earth is left to breathe again. Stars flickered faintly through the haze of cosmic dust, their light uncertain, as though afraid to disturb the stillness that followed the unmaking of gods. Where once the Emperor's light had ruled, there was now only the soft pulse of life rediscovering itself. The figure that had walked from the ruins of the throne continued its pilgrimage through the hollowed bones of the Imperium. Worlds that had burned now stood empty beneath soft skies. Cities of ash became gardens of wild, alien growth. Human ruins intertwined with vines of color unknown to any painter, blossoms fed by the ashes of cathedrals. The banners of the old empire lay buried beneath roots, their sigils fading, their vows swallowed by the soil. The figure watched and did not interfere. It was no longer a god nor a ruler, merely a witness to the quiet rebirth of a species that had once worshipped its own fear. On a nameless moon orbiting a dead sun, an old Remembrancer sat beside a broken terminal, recording what little memory remained of the age of the Imperium. His voice was hoarse, worn by dust and time. "There was once a man who became a god," he murmured, "and a god who became a memory." Around him, the air shimmered faintly with motes of light, echoes of souls too stubborn to fade. He reached out, letting one drift through his fingers. Do they still remember him, I wonder? Or only what they needed him to be? Across the void, ships adrift since the end of the wars drifted no longer. Their crews, or what was left of them, began to wake, not to orders, but to silence. They moved through corridors filled with the smell of dust and oil, touching the walls as though feeling for ghosts. Some wept at the absence of the Emperor's name in their prayers. Others smiled through tears, whispering that perhaps now they were free to speak to one another without fear of divine judgment. The Mechanicus, once bound by code and worship, found their forges cold and still. Yet among the silence, sparks returned, small lights flickering in the hands of adepts who had forgotten how to build without reverence. They began again, this time without blessing the machine. The first engine roared, not with sacred hymns, but with laughter, raw, human, imperfect. And in that imperfection, there was something divine. On the plains of what had once been Ultramar, a child walked through the remains of a battlefield turned meadow. The helmets of the fallen lay half buried among flowers. She picked one up, brushed away the dirt, and gazed into the empty visor. "Were they heroes?" she asked the wind. No voice answered, only the whisper of grass swaying in the gentle breeze. She set the helmet down and continued walking, her bare feet leaving no mark in the soil. Behind her, the wind moved the helmet slightly, just enough to catch a beam of sunlight. Far beyond human worlds, in the void once scarred by the warp, the great rift was gone. In its place was a vast aurora, a band of shimmering light that stretched across the stars, endlessly shifting between colors no mind had words for. Scholars would later name it the Veil of Rest. To those who looked upon it, it felt like standing before the grave of a god too vast to comprehend. And yet, within its calm, there was peace, a peace the galaxy had never known. The chroniclers of this new age wrote without certainty. Their words trembled with humility, for they no longer claimed to understand the will of the divine. One wrote, "The Emperor's light did not vanish. It became us. It scattered through our blood, through the soil, through every soundless prayer we whisper in fear or hope. He was never a god of power, only a mirror we built from pain." Helena Soren's name was lost to time, but fragments of her voice endured in records carried by pilgrims. In one such fragment, her words seemed to echo from eternity. If he was ever merciful, it was in letting us learn to stand without him. That line became the foundation of a new faith, one without altars or hierarchies, only remembrance. Centuries passed. Empires formed again, cautious, smaller, humbler. Their leaders no longer bore the weight of divine right, but carried the quiet burden of memory. Every cathedral that rose in this new age was built with open ceilings, so that the faithful might look up and remember that no god dwelled above, only the endless forgiving void. On the world once called Terra, the palace lay in ruins, half buried under centuries of growth. Within its heart, the great crater that had once held the throne shimmered faintly. Travelers claimed that sometimes under the light of certain stars, one could hear a heartbeat echoing beneath the stone. Not loud, not divine, just steady, patient, human. The Remembrancer who recorded the last days of the Imperium grew old. His body failed, his voice thinned. In his final entry, he whispered into the recorder, eyes fixed on the stars that had outlived a god. "Perhaps that was his purpose all along," he said softly. "To die so that we might remember what it means to live." He paused, breath shallow, and smiled faintly. "But tell me, if the Emperor's dream was peace, did we honor him by surviving? Or did we only inherit his loneliness?" He closed his eyes, and the recorder clicked off. His body slumped forward, surrounded by faint motes of light drifting through the stale air, the last remnants of faith, weightless and eternal. Far beyond, the figure who had once been the Emperor stood at the edge of the galaxy, where light thinned into the void. Its body shimmered like a dying star. It turned its gaze one final time toward the Milky Way, toward the countless souls it had once ruled and sacrificed for. Was it worth it? It asked the silence. The silence, vast and ancient, answered only with the slow birth of new stars. It smiled faintly, eyes dimming. Then that is enough. The figure dissolved, scattering into the void like dust caught in a beam of light. Its particles drifted across the stars, carried by unseen tides, falling into the hearts of newborn suns, into oceans yet to exist, into the lungs of children yet to breathe. The Emperor was gone, and everywhere. The galaxy turned once more, its pulse steady, ancient, alive. The wars of faith became stories. The throne became myth. The light that had once demanded obedience now slept quietly in every living thing, unremembered yet undying. And somewhere, in a forgotten chapel buried beneath mountains of ruin, a single candle burned. Its flame flickered in the darkness, bending but never breaking, as if listening for a voice that would never speak again. A remnant wind passed through, carrying the faintest echo of words lost to time, not command, not plea, but a prayer as old as humanity itself. We are still here. The candle burned lower, its light trembling, and then, in the vast cathedral of the stars, it went out. The universe exhaled, and history for a time was silent. If this story stirred something within you, if you walked through its silence and felt the weight of its light, then stay, like, share and subscribe to keep the flame alive. Comment your thoughts below, for every voice is a chronicle, and every chronicle a remembrance of what once was, and what may yet return.